read this verse to you, and then we'll touch on that at the end. It's Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21. It says, Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. This will all make a lot more sense after I'm done. But we left on February 5th. On January 6th, I received a phone call from Terry Erb regarding this trip and asked me if I wanted to go. I wasn't really sure what to say. It sounded exciting because I love softball. I was busy at home with my wife raising our son, who was going to be turning 1 just a week and a half before I would be leaving. My wife was working hard to keep ahead of all of our bills, and we were trying to pay down some of our debt. And on top of all that, I was blessed with a promotion at work that I was actually scheduled to start the Monday after we'd be returning back from Panama. I really wanted to go, and I'm not joking when I say I really just wanted to leave the cold weather and go play softball where it was warm. That was really the only thing on my mind. You know, the spreading the word of Jesus Christ was appealing to me as well, but softball, that's what really got me there. So, but unfortunately, it didn't really seem financially possible or even logical to go. However, I have a God who works in mysterious ways. After that initial phone call on January 6th, I talked to my wife about it, and it began to weigh heavy on my mind. I was being called on by God to partake on this journey to Panama to share the good news of Jesus Christ with the people of Panama. Or so I thought that was what I was being called on to do. However, I have a God who works in mysterious ways. I spoke with Terry a day or two later and explained my situation. I explained to him that I have a great job that allows me to take vacation time on short notice. I have a passport. My wife was okay with living the life of a single mom while I was away. And everything seemed to be falling into place except for 2 things. Money and my selfish need of not wanting to use up 7 days of vacation. A lot of you here don't know me, but let me tell you that I love to hunt, and using up 7 days of vacation on anything other than being in the woods and on the water was very tough for me. So Terry explained to me that I didn't need to commit to the entire trip. We have a lot of people that come down for part of the trip. They'll come down at the beginning and leave halfway through, or they'll come down halfway through and leave at the end. He also told me that he could reach out to people who could possibly be willing to help offset a portion of the money required for the trip. But the most important thing he said to me on that phone call was to not say no because of money and to place my trust in God. If God's plan was to put me on a plane to Panama, I would be on it. Not surprising, I said yes, and I decided to put my faith in God. I registered online and made the arrangements that I would fly down with Chandler, Jenny, Terry, and Merv on Thursday, February 5th, and I would fly home by myself on Tuesday and save 3 of my precious vacation days. That was the plan. However, I have a God who works in mysterious ways. After arriving in Panama, I met a lot of amazing people who were a part of the ministry and who faithfully walked with the Lord. It was very incredible to hear a lot of the testimonies that these people presented. A lot of these people battled intense drug and alcohol addictions before finding the Lord, and it was incredible. I spent a few nights with these people in what's known as a hostel. If you don't know what a hostel is, it's basically a hotel that has large rooms with multiple bunk beds in it, and you rent a bed for the night and share the room with whoever else might be staying there as well. Every day we gathered together as a team for devotions. We were blessed to have a pastor from Truth Point Church in West Palm Beach that Jenny discussed, named Jeremy McKean, along with us for the trip. Jeremy led our devotions and guided us through the book of James, one small section at a time each day for 8 days for the purpose of teaching us how to be devoted to God. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and my walk with the Lord prior to this trip. For a short time at a young age, my sister and I would get on a bus on Sunday mornings that would take us to a church just south of Corryville. It was in this church one Sunday morning that I was taken into a small room by one of the teachers and asked the big question that I was told would determine my fate for eternity in heaven or hell. Do you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, that he shed his blood on the cross and was raised from the dead? It's a mighty big question to ask a young kid who was going to church every Sunday to see his friends and to play with them and really had no deep understanding of what you were asking him. I knew, though, that he wanted me to say yes, and I was too scared to say no. And even if I wasn't scared, I knew that if I had said no, he would keep me there longer, tell me why I should say yes. And quite frankly, I just wanted to get out of that room and go play with my friends. Fast forward about 10 or 15 years, I found myself occasionally learning more about God at a church in Peach Bottom. I participated in the New Year's Eve play there for a couple years, and I loved everyone there, and I enjoyed learning more about Christ. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could honestly answer yes to that question I was asked so many years before. Fast forward a couple more years, I met a girl named Brooke, a beautiful, independent, hardworking, and amazing gift from God, whom I later asked to spend the rest of my life with. The lead pastor of the church in Peach Bottom married us on June 18, 2011, and on January 26, 2014, we welcomed our newborn son into the world. On April 27th, my wife and I were both baptized at a church we occasionally attended in Leola. Now, I'm telling you all this because even though I believed in Jesus Christ and I was baptized, I was not living a life devoted to God. I was still living a life full of sin. I went to church only when it suited me, if I happened to wake up on time, and if my hangover from Sunday night or Saturday night wasn't too bad. When I went to church, I would praise God, and immediately afterwards, I would go right back to my sinful ways. I cursed heavily. I treated my wife bad. And I mentioned several times that God works in mysterious ways. But these are ways that only seem mysterious to me because I wanted to think that I knew what was best. But I was unable to see the master plan he had for me. You see, it was around day 2 of the trip, on Sunday, where all the mysteriousness of God's ways that I felt over the past month began to seem a whole lot mysterious. I started to realize that God didn't align all the stars and send me to Panama just to share the good news of Jesus Christ with the people of Panama. I couldn't even personally talk to the people of Panama other than hola and gracias without a translator. And really, who was I to tell someone else about Jesus Christ when I knew so little and I wasn't living a life devoted to God myself? No, you see, God used the game of softball, a game that I love, to draw me to Panama to spend several days with a group of devoted, God-fearing people to help me grow spiritually through our daily devotions through the book of James. By day 3, on Sunday, I realized that my trip was almost over. And I had just gotten there. I had Monday left, and that was it. I was going home on Tuesday. I had to leave about midday Tuesday, hop on a bus for a 4-hour trip back to Panama City to catch my flight. I missed my family back home, but I was really upset that I was going to have to leave. I didn't want to leave and miss the remaining devotions. It's funny because you remember how I said I wanted to save those 3 vacation days and go home early? I thought I knew what was best for me at the time, but God had a different plan. Now I was sitting in my hotel room wishing I wouldn't have scheduled to leave early, and I was trying to figure out a way to stay for the remainder of the trip. I talked to Brenda Gordon. She is the wife of the president of SportXChange, and I explained to her that I didn't want to leave. I was learning so much about my faith and being devoted to God, I felt as if it would be a sin to go home and miss the rest of the trip. She said that she would look into it and let me know, but my hopes were not really high considering I had a flight scheduled out of Panama in 2 days. Even if we could get it changed, it was probably going to be so expensive I couldn't do it. Finally, on Monday, the day before I was supposed to leave, and immediately following our devotions, Brenda let me listen to the voicemail from Daniel, who was looking into my options. Yes, I could change my flight to Saturday, but I couldn't get on the same flight as Chandler and Jenny, and Terry and Merv. I would have to leave later in the evening, which meant I couldn't ride back to Lancaster with them, and someone would have to drive down to Baltimore to pick me up. Oh, and it was around $1,100 to change my flight. I was heartbroken. I couldn't afford to pay $1,100 just to change my flight. However, I have a God who works in mysterious ways. A young lady named Lucy, incredibly sweet lady. She was an incredible asset to our ministry team down there. She worked a lot with Jenny and the girls, with the fans and the people of Panama. She came to me and said, she came to me with the idea of just calling United Airlines directly and talking to someone. So she made the call to United, and after a few minutes of her saying, I don't know what, because it was in Spanish, God's grace presented itself to me. I really can't explain it any other way than it was God's grace. I was booked a ticket on the same flight as Chandler and Jenny for $360. And if that's not enough to prove to you God's grace, I was sitting in first class. True story. So I had such an amazing time in Panama, and like I said in the last evening of the trip, and like Chandler said, If they came to me and said, Andy, we're going back to Panama, or we're going to another country on this mission trip again, but we're not playing softball, I would still be there. I hope and pray to make this ministry trip an annual event, and I hope to someday be able to financially assist someone else to make the trip to share the good news of Jesus Christ, because you just don't know when or where or how someone's life is going to be changed forever. Like I said, in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 21, it says, many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it is the purpose of the Lord that will stand. I had many plans in my mind before going to Panama. I wanted to play softball. I wanted to get to warmer weather, share the news of Jesus Christ, but it was the purpose of the Lord that stood in regards to this trip. His purpose was to send me 2,100 miles away to enable me the opportunity to take a step back and look at how I was living my life. I was not living a life devoted to God. I was living a selfish life devoted to myself. I'd like to thank God, most importantly, for having a plan far greater than I could ever imagine. I'd also like to thank Terry Erb, Chandler, and each one of you as members of this church for helping me to get there. I couldn't have done it without all of you, and I can't begin to explain to you how much of an impact this trip has made on my life. Thank you, and God bless you.